Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and call this Citizen Advisory Commission regular meeting to order. The time is now 4:07 p.m. Can we have a roll call of members?
Commissioner Bruning,
Here.
Commissioner Mendez,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
and Chair Auclair.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Vice Chair Burke is absent.
Thank you. We're now going to move to the public comment section of this meeting. We'll now hear public comment on items not pertaining to this agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. This process will be the same for comments pertaining to each agenda item. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. We have no presentations at this meeting today, so we'll go ahead and move to the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of 2 items, the meeting minutes for June 9th and the meeting minutes for October 13th. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
I move to approve.
Second.
And there's a second. Can we have a vote on this item?
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. We're now going to move to the business items this afternoon. The first item is item 3 under business. That's C Splash Color Dash 5K Run Walk Event. Will staff please present the report? Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Agenda item 3, as the chair indicated, pertains to the annual 5K event, racing event down at the beach. This will be the event's 3rd year in the city, and as we've done in the past 2 years, staff is here to provide an outline of the event so that the Commission can hear and understand what the event is, ask any questions, and ultimately, provide an advisory recommendation that the council could consider when it considers the special use permit during a public hearing. Anna Hanley, the city's Recreation and Community Services Manager, is here, and she's going to walk us through the event details.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and provide a high-level overview of the event scope. And this is a City and Port of Hueneme co-hosted event. It's a road-based public run walk featuring a 5K race route, a kids 1K, and a wellness fair at the conclusion of the event. The event is set to occur on March 21st, 2026, with the event area impacted from approximately 5:30 a.m. and until 1 p.m. The wellness fair will include health-based providers sharing educational information, children's activity area, refreshment vendors, and live entertainment. As far as the fiscal impact is concerned, beach parking revenues will not be collected for parking lots A, B, E, F, nor along Surfside Drive or Ocean View Drive. The Port of Hueneme has committed a $10,000 allocation for this event, and the event expenses are also to be offset by the $25 registration fee per participant for the 5K and the $10 registration fee for the kids 1K. Participants will be required to register in advance and are to receive a race t-shirt and a medal. So after planning this event this will be in its 3rd year, we've learned a couple of things. And namely, this year we want to take the approach of finding the most efficient race route with the least amount of impact to the neighboring residents. And so what we're proposing this year is a change. In years past, we have rented barricades and designed a switchback system along the frontage road along Surfside 1 homes. And that was a really heavy lift, one in cost, but also in the physical labor and time that it took in advance of the race to stage all of these materials. And so this year we're proposing to take the participants northbound on Ventura Road, west along Seaview Street, southbound on Market, and then back out towards the jetty to continue with the normal flow of the race route. And so I've walked this portion of the route in advance for the planning stages of this, and the total estimated impact would be no more than 25 minutes to the residents. There's a change in this in that in years past we were trying to forego having to close down and actively monitor the entrance and exits to these communities. But we're confident with the help of the police department that we can actively staff these soft closure points and, as I mentioned, reduce costs and really control that timed amount of impact to be what we hope will be an even more successful event this year. So I just wanted to make mention, this is also a color run. And so that was a really great element that was included at last year's event. It was successful and visually really appealing as well. This is, for now, the proposed race route for the kids 1K. So it's much shorter, a lesser amount of impact. So that's another thing about this particular event is as it concludes, we can start to sort of fold in on ourselves and reduce that area of impact. And so we can remain self-contained in this portion of Lot A and then Lot B as well. So this also makes mention, it's easier to tell within this particular image that we do include the opt-out path for any race goers that do not want to partake in the color run component. And so that's also available in the 5K as well, but it's a little bit more difficult to see on that particular image. But it's easier to highlight here on the kids 1K. Also wanted to make mention of the remaining impact. Again, as I explained, we begin to actively fold that in the event footprint in on itself. But the portion that will remain intact until the 1 p.m. time frame is that of the wellness fair. And so that area of Ocean View Drive, which is outlined in red, is really that sort of that race chute. It's where runners are going to line up and be staged. It's also where the event concludes. And that has everyone terminating in Lot C. And that's where we'll have the longest area of impact for this event, namely from the 5:30 to 1 o'clock time frame. So here's where we're going to have all of the food vendors, the restroom area, the DJ, the health and wellness information providers. Anything that's going to have that sort of, also this is where we're going to have the stage and all of the awards ceremony. And so you may be familiar if you've attended in past, but that's sort of the bustling, prolonged area of the event. So as far as the recommendation today, it's recommended that the Citizen Advisory Commission review the City of Port Hueneme and Port of Hueneme co-hosted run and walk event plan and provide an approval recommendation to the City Council. And with that, it's the conclusion of this presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have two.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
First one, regarding the $25 fee, was this free in the past, if I remember? Is this the first time they're charging?
No, but it has been an incremental increase.
Okay.
So the first year we really had a focused effort to test the waters, and the price point was $10.
Okay, it was $10.
Last year it was $20. And this year we found, in comparison to neighboring events that are hosted, our prices are so very low that we were bearing the cost of this event. And we think we can help balance that out and pass on just another $5 to the participants in hopes to even things out.
Okay, and the follow-up question to that, it's referring to the cost. I think going back to the Community Benefit Fund with the port, I thought I remember that $10,000 that the port's committed, is that out of their own funds, or is that part of the Community Benefit Funds where there was $10,000 from that amount allocated? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, so in the past, it had been, the funds were from the Community Benefit Fund. This year, that is not the case. The port was excited to continue the partnership on this event, so the $10,000 is allocated from another source of funds that the port has, not the community benefit dollars.
Okay. Thank you. That's the question there.
Sure.
Thank you. Does any other commissioners have questions for staff? These are questions of staff, and then we'll have deliberation. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, just one quick question. How many people do you think are going to be attending this event? And do you think it'll be an increase from last year's?
Sure, so that's something we also sort of are always trying to weigh out and consider. But in years past, we held a threshold of 600 race participants for the 5K and 150 participants for the children's 1K, and we met those maximums. And so at this time, we would be proposing the same thresholds, but with spectators, the inundation to the area is approximately 1,500 people, all told.
Okay.
So unless we receive direction otherwise, those are the proposed numbers at this time.
Thank you.
Any other staff questions? Questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay, the recommendation is to review the splash Sea Splash Color Dash 5K Run and Walk event and provide additional recommendation to the City Council. Does a commissioner have a motion at this time?
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll discuss this motion. Any discussion? Any discussion on this item? Thoughts on this item? Feedback for staff?
I just want to make one comment. I've done this twice, and I like the route that you're going now with it, because the zigzag kind of is a bit much, and for people who don't run, seeing the same scenery gets boring. So I like that you guys are going around. It makes it a lot cleaner.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. That's all.
We appreciate that feedback, and I'll give credit to Anna.
Okay, no,
and
it
her
looks
team.
like a better run, because I'm telling you, I did the zigzag part on the front of surf side, and then and you get kind of confused with the way it was set up, so.
I will just say, I think one of the hesitations or one of the difficulties is there are certain impacts now because we're going more out into the neighborhood. And if we weren't clear in the description, I'll just point out that one of the things that Anna and her team did, although we're using Seaview, it's the sidewalk, so the roadway won't be closed to vehicular traffic. We'll have monitors out there kind of directing people to stay, I think the shoulder as well, we're taking, okay.
Southbound shoulder.
But vehicular traffic should be able to continue, so there will be certain impacts at entrances and exits to the developments in the immediate area, but as Anna said, there'll be soft closures, so in case of emergency, we'll be able to kind of handle those. So we appreciate the feedback from an actual participant.
Yeah, good job, I like
That
it.
was exactly Anna's thought, was like, in addition to the cost and really the closure of the road, because we had those hard barricades, it's really more enjoyable, we hope, for the runner to experience different areas rather than just going back and forth in
Yeah.
the same area 3
I
times.
appreciate it, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Just one comment. Makes me really happy to see that the Port of Waimea decided to continue this partnership with our city here and choosing to still allocate $10,000 from their own funds and not have that be allocated through the community benefit fund, to see those would be $10,000 allocated somewhere else in our community.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. As far as my comments, I just appreciate staff. I know this has been, I believe you said this is the third year we're doing this program, and it's even more than I think we originally imagined as far as successful and integrated and continued refinement of the process. And so I think it's something that's unique to the city of Port Wainimi, because we have this long coastline that's accessible. So with that, I just appreciate your work. I know there's a lot going on with recreation, our community services, and so and the whole city staff on this item. So with that, the item has been moved and seconded. We can go ahead and call the vote on this item unless there's any other comments. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the staff.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item is item 4. This is our annual review of the city's legislative platform. Will staff please present the report?
So good afternoon. As the chair indicated, agenda item number 4 pertains to the periodic review of the city's legislative platform. You may recall this from prior years. We have reviewed this document and its annual modifications or proposed modifications before the CAC in the past. As a reminder, the legislative platform provides a document that has the city's position on various legislative topics and makes clear the city's position. It allows the city to promptly respond to proposed legislation, whether it be at the county level, the state level, or the federal level. And because of that, it's prudent to periodically review the document and consider whether any changes are needed. As part of its charge, the CAC is tasked with reviewing the document and making an advisory recommendation to the City Council. As a reminder, last year, the council made 2 modifications from the document that had existed the prior year. One was to add support for legislation that advocates for the equitable distribution of sales tax from online sales. And the second item was advocacy for legislation that would provide resources to the city and to the county that would allow for resources to allow for the city to better prepare for and respond to emergencies. Those were the 2 changes that were made last year. So The document is presented without any specific staff recommended modifications this year, but it is provided in order for the commission to consider any changes it may suggest to the council, if any, and eventually make a recommendation for the city council to consider either keeping it as is or modifying it as the commission may determine necessary.
Okay, thank you for that. Does the commission have any questions for staff at this time? We'll take public comment and then we will enter into deliberation. Any comments, any questions of staff at this time? Okay, are there any public comments on this item?
No public comments.
Okay, the recommendation is to conduct a review of the legislative platform and consider an advisory recommendation to the city council. Is there a motion from commissioners at this time? And then we'll move to deliberation.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to go to discussion. Now, commissioners, how we've done it in previous cycles is we went section by section. And what I'll do is I'll give you all a couple of minutes to review it, and then we'll say, do we have any questions, any feedback? What we've done in years past, and if staff's comfortable with this, is we make notes. They will say that they've captured those notes, and that way when we go ultimately to the votes, we can say, we're voting on it in totality, but also including notes from the commission. So not necessarily, hopefully we reach consensus if possible, but if we don't, I think staff in the past has captured those notes and just said, here are some positives or whatever our feedback has been.
Okay.
Are the commissioners comfortable with that method? Okay. So let's start with under general governance. Let's start with section 1, or item 1 under general governance. I'll give everybody a moment to review. Maybe section 1 and 2, and then we'll come back together. Okay. Any feedback for staff on item 1 and 2?
They seem standard. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it doesn't look like there's any changes to these sections. Okay, so we're now going to move to item 3 and 4. So we'll spend a minute looking at those. Okay, commissioners, on this section, any,
How far down are we supposed to be going?
so let's do all of section 4. It turns around to the next page.
Okay, well, I went ahead. then.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get there. On these items, what feedback do we have for staff? Good.
That looks good to me.
I would just note that one thing I've noticed about this section is of the items mentioned, 8 of them are oppose, 1 is support. And so, in the future, I would love to hear what the city wants to see in this section. What do they support, rather than just over and over again, oppose, 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 oppose. You know, we make it very clear at the beginning, local control is what the priority of the city is. But I don't see a lot of inspiration in that section. It's a lot of opposition. And so just thinking about framing in the future, maybe it's support XYZ and oppose XYZ. That way, if a resident's looking at that, they can see what the city supports instead of just, that's pretty strong opposition.
Yeah, it makes it look like they're against the labor relations.
Yes, very strongly, opposed to labor reforms.
Correct.
I will point out in item E, in the past, I believe that section, the note section there, was added between the CAC and the city council, just notating that that section is preferring local control rather than saying that the city favors contracting out services. The assumption there is services that are currently by represented staff.
Chair, can we just be clear, which section are we specifically talking about?
So this is section 3 and 4, and then it's item E under section 4, labor relations. And it says, note, this shall not be construed as an endorsement of contractors, but support the retention of local decision-making authority. This is on page 5 of 17.
Labor 4, section E.
Yes. Yeah, labor relations, section E. So just to note that that's retained.
I appreciate the pointing out the language though, because it does seem quite negative.
Yeah. So, okay, with that, if we're prepared, we can move to the next sections. Okay, so let's go 5, 6, and 7. And then if you all want to just make eye contact with me when you're done and you're ready to move. Okay. Until staff returns, if we want to review the next page as well. Commissioners. Any feedback on pages 6 and 7?
They look pretty standard to me, right? That's kind of what they already have established. These are standard, like what you guys have already have established, right, as a working.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the language, I think in the memo it mentions, it's informed by like the League of Cities and in general, kind of a theme of local control, especially as a chartered city.
I'm good.
Any other feedback? One thing I would mention on section 9, just in general, thinking about framing as economic development and affordability. There's several items here that are affordability related, cost of living related, and I would like to see that in that section. So section 9, when it talks about economic development, thinking about language or items regarding affordability, cost of living. I think there's several of them scattered throughout, but I think that framing could be helpful.
I mean, the cost of living part, is that specific to a specific topic or like?
Yeah, so just throughout it talks about local control over taxing, those type of thing, grants, initiatives. You know, how do we address economic and affordability in the community?
All right, got it. No, thank you.
Okay, let's move to pages 8 and 9. We'll take a moment to glance through that. Any feedback on these 2 pages?
I have some questions on, under fiscal responsibility, where it says, okay, just in general, it's not, basically, they still want local control to make their decisions, but in there, it doesn't say anything about, you know, what, as far as increasing services. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like when it comes to tax increases because of the revenue deficit that obviously the city's been going through or is going through right now currently. They still want local control, but there's no way, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is for the city is like, hey, you need to start making decisions now before it gets worse, you know, in governing itself. Or is this just talking about don't have the state control what we do, but yet at the same time, they're not doing anything? Makes sense, what I'm saying?
I think I understood your comment, and I guess I'll just remind everybody, it's a legislative platform, so it's kind of our response to legislative changes, not necessarily our approach to fiscal management.
Oh, so it's not us telling the city what to do. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, in a way, it's also our advocacy plan, right?
Right.
Um,
Okay, so that was just my concern. This is just strictly for what state, what we're gonna support as a city versus self-management and what we need to improve.
right.
Okay.
Right. Hopefully, as an extension of what we're doing locally.
Right,
You know.
right.
Any other comments on section or on pages 8 and 9? Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Under Homeland Security, Section 4B, support legislation that requires federal law enforcement agencies to communicate with local law enforcement officials as threats become known. The reason why I'm highlighting that one is because of the event that happened over the past week at the military base. How well-informed was our police department, and how long did it take for them to get that information?
I don't have specific data for you, exact response time or from date of report to the city. But I will say our police department does have an ongoing and cooperative relationship with the base. They were contacted in a very short period of time after the initial threat was received, and they did respond shortly thereafter. So federal law enforcement, or federal enforcement, and our police department were in close collaboration and had a good partnership on that specific event.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
I
Commissioner.
guess my in that same section, given, I just want to make sure, when I hear Homeland Security and I'm reading these federal law enforcement and communication, Hueneme is not a sanctuary city, is that correct?
Well, the state is,
The state
so,
is, So we're
yeah,
still obligated by the state.
yeah, SB 54 and similar legislation. I will say, on this section or someplace in the platform, I didn't see it, perhaps it exists, is a plank on immigration and immigrant community. I know the city council has taken a position in the past, issued letters of support for various legislation that the county and perhaps the state also is funding. And so I would like to see if that's their desire to incorporate it into this legislative platform. I know the County of Ventura has a section around comprehensive immigration reform, around local funding for different resources. And so perhaps looking at the County of Ventura's section, because that was supported bipartisan. There was no votes at the Board of Supervisors, but was added to the county's legislative platform language around immigration's impact locally. So that would be my desire, whether it is under public protection or elsewhere, that if the city council has a position it's taken this year, and it has, to add that to this document. They can debate what that is, but perhaps also look at the County of Ventura. That way, if the county is advocating for local control, that the city has a position that's consistent with council direction.
I actually agree with that, given, the current state and whatever happened last year with when at the council, when someone accused a council member of speaking on behalf of the city that they didn't pass. So I think if they have it written in here specifically on immigration, it'll help keep the council body looking cohesive in what they're supporting and what they're not.
Yeah, exactly. One, it also provides staff direction, right? If something is a tight turnaround around, especially this theme of local control, I would like to see that somewhere in this document, and it can be done sensitively. I prefer it not under crime, because we know, but someplace else, maybe its own section around in the document. But there's good language at the county level that was bipartisan support, and then positions that the council's taken as well.
So I'll just one more time agree with that, whether it's a yes or a no on it, but at least have it written out specific, so that way there's no confusion about it. That's what I would take to the council.
That's precisely what I was going to suggest, and I do think that if it's the pleasure of the commission, that maybe it's a separate section in this public protection category by itself. The one thing I would ask, as we know, it is a potentially controversial topic and a political topic. So I don't want to interpret or potentially misinterpret the commission's wishes. So if there is specific language, or if it is the vote is specifically to use language that is currently in the county's legislative platform, I just wanted to be clear on getting the language that the commission specifically would like to be presented to council.
So the motion I would make, and then we can discuss it as a commission, is that the council considers adding a section, that staff drafts a section wherever it feels, it should go in this platform on immigration, and then perhaps even bring council options based on their past positions or discussions this past year. And then as a part of that staff report, include positions taken by our neighboring cities and the county as information for the council. They can pick and choose. They can choose what that language is. But that way they are informed about what are their neighboring cities' positions, what's the county's positions, and if they choose to include that or not, they will have that information. That way, in that case, that's language that's already been vetted by their legal counsel and whatever else.
And I think my side of that, as far as clarity, is like I support the idea of there being a specific section, whether the council decides to say, no, we're not going to support anything, or yes, this is what we support, I would leave it up to them. I just think it should be addressed, yes or no.
Yeah.
What we're doing. And they can determine at what point or what language they want to adopt, but I would rather see a, no, we're not going to support, or yes, we support in these ways. So that way we have something to reference to in the future.
So I would support that. In addition to that, in that staff report providing the information about what's other cities in their legislative platforms and the county. That way they have that as a reference of perhaps options
Yeah,
if
that
they
makes
want to
sense.
pick or choose it.
We do have residents that work in the areas that are affected by it, so it's like, at least have it addressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that way they can't say we're neglecting or not addressing a specific topic to people in our community.
Exactly. I mean, this morning alone, there was a site, an interaction on Ventura Road in Channel Islands. So it's right here. Okay. Is that clear to staff?
Yeah, I'll just review just to make sure that I understand what's
Yeah.
being said, that the concept here is the recommendation from the CAC would the council would consider adding a section into the legislative platform that specifically states the council's position on, as it pertains to immigration, and in the report, share information about what other cities and the county have done in that regard so that the council can make an informed decision, but no specific recommendation as to the language that they might consider. Just that it should be in there one way or the other, and it's up to them to kind of state their position.
Yeah.
And if there's no position, at least still have it in there as in there as a section that they're not going to
Right. And they can always bring it back to council if they want to take a position.
leave that door open. I think that's why I made my clarification.
Yeah, last thing I'll add is, I know there was thoughts around political. That is what this entire document is. The whole thing is political. I could pull out any of these items, and some of these are extraordinarily controversial, and I just want to recognize whether it's pension reform, local control. If we had a labor relations, a union here, they would have a lot to say about a lot of what's being proposed. But with that, though, is there any other feedback? Well, first of all, there's consensus among the commissioners at that item.
Yes.
Feedback, okay. Now, for any of these other items, any other feedback on pages 8 and 9? Okay, let's move to pages 10 and 11. And again, just make eye contact when you're ready, so we'll take some time and review this. Okay, commissioners, on pages 10 and 11, are there any feedback for staff?
No.
Okay, we're moving right along. 12 and 13, pages 12 and 13. Commissioners, on pages 12 and 13, any feedback?
I just want to go into the housing part.
Yes.
So I read all of them, and I know around the city and county, there's been a lot of stuff with affordable housing and different like rent control, tenant rights and stuff like that. And I don't know, because I've seen it from different cities, is there a way to maybe include, if, or supporting anything that, if there's going to be renters' rights, there has to be equal support for the owners as well, or equal protections when implementing policies in that manner? Because it seemed like when I've looked at, the city of Ventura, Oxnard, it's always a renter versus owner, whether it be a corporation or a mom and pop. And I think if there's equal protections on each side, it might balance the way that any new legislation or ordinances are implemented, rather than just favoring one side over the other. Does that make sense?
So certainly they can add an item about tenant protections and ask the council to take a position. And like you were saying, tenant, or maybe even tenant and landlord relations as a general topic. And if they desire to add a line item in here about whatever direction they want to go, they could consider
Well,
that.
I guess, I see where you're going with that, and I'm okay with that as long as there's like the landlord or owner protections as well. Because like I said, I've seen in some of the bills that are coming up in other cities, it seems very strongly towards protecting renters only versus protecting homeowners, who are also the ones, paying the money to the city or county for their property taxes as well. So I just see there's a big imbalance towards a favoritism towards renters versus homeowners. So if they are going to go that route to add a policy for tenant rights, that they have to include owners' rights as well to make it balanced. Does that make sense?
No, I understand. I understand what your proposal is. Reflecting on that, what I would think in support is they could broadly consider adding items related to those topics on here. Take a position, and so like you were saying, landlord support, tenant protections. Consider that in this legislative platform. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't want it one way when it comes to that. And if there are other cities that want Port Huenemi's support in passing their ordinances or whatnot, at least our council or admin could say, hey, this is what we've adopted to support other cities with, or at the state level as well.
Yeah, whatever the city's position is. On
Right,
those
let them determine that. But I think it's something that would be specific, that in the future, our city council can actually support and have a stance on the item. Does that make sense?
Any thoughts from staff?
I think what I heard is that you want the council to consider legislation that would fairly and equitably balance landlord and tenant rights.
Correct.
Okay.
And to choose, like, either create a stance or a specific, whatever their verbiage is to support it, to be able to use that to help support other cities that are trying to, or even the state level, if you want to support different, everything here is support or oppose legislation. I want the city of Port Hueneme to be able to support different items that are brought up in other areas.
So take a position
Right.
to give direction to staff. Any other feedback on these items? Okay, we can move to pages, we're in the home stretch here, pages 14 and 15. Commissioners, any feedback on pages 14 and 15? Comfortable moving to the next pages? Okay, we're in the home stretch here, 16 and 17. Okay, Commissioners, any comments on 16, 17? Okay. So Commissioners, we've concluded our review of the platform. I'm now going to check with staff to make sure direction was clear. The comments, I should say.
I think so. That was a really long motion. So I'll just recap, and the commission can modify if I didn't capture everything. But the first comment that I took was in the labor relations section. There's a lot of opposes, and it would be great if we could modify that section to indicate what we are supportive of. There was also a comment about making sure that there's affordability, cost of living language that's incorporated. I did note that there is a reference to it in the housing section, but this came up during the economic development section, so that's a thought that we could incorporate that. We discussed the immigration language, that the council can be provided with examples from other municipalities and have the opportunity to state the city's position with regard to that topic. And then I also had, I believe our last conversation was about the landlord-tenant rights issue and the opportunity to provide a clear position on where the council is with that issue.
So just to make it balanced, if you could make it say like landlord protections, tenant rights, so that way it feels like balanced to me, like you're not favoring one over the other. Does that make sense? Okay.
It's a general topic, yeah.
Right.
Okay, great.
Okay, with that, is there a motion with those notes included? Is there a motion to approve the?
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, I just want to get the language here.
I'll second.
Yeah, that we. Hold on. Just want to make clear here that we provide direction to staff and advisory, that our advisory recommendation to the city council include the comments provided.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
You made
Okay, is there a
motion, I
second?
second.
Okay. Can we have the vote on that item?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing
Okay.
none, motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know that was a heavy-duty lift there and a lot.
Second longest.
Yeah, yeah, it's important, though. It's important. Okay, with that, are there any staff comments?
Just one, I believe at the end of the last meeting, there was a comment about the Community Benefit Fund, and I did want to provide an update on that. In November, the joint committee of 2 representatives from the Harbor Board and 2 representatives from the City Council did meet, as they do periodically. There was some discussion about the Community Benefit Fund. There was not a resolution on the path forward, and the decision was made to hold a joint meeting of the full council and the full Board of Harbor Commissioners. So I just wanted to provide that as an update. That would be the next step, pending any other direction from the bodies. And again, just that question was raised, and I know that the Community Benefit Fund has been a topic that this body has discussed, so I wanted to provide an update on that.
So just a comment on that. because the first longest meeting was the day we looked at all the applications. That was our longest meeting last year. And we're going to be approaching a year pretty soon. I think we're like 9, 10 months. And I know when I talked to Jan, you know, before our feeling was kind of like, you know, these people that came and put applications for, you know, for grants or for money. And for us, even as the Citizens Advisory Commission, even going from here to the city council, that, you know, we kind of made an offer of things and we have seen no closure, even a no. Like, you're not going to get the money. That kind of leaves a bad taste in the public's mouth for us and for the city council, and maybe even the port too. So if we can just kind of like maybe encourage, you know, the city council, let's at least resolve the issue or come to determination sooner than later because of how we look. I think it's bad to keep a nonprofit out there that may have been dependent on some money that, you know, we had put out there, and to not have an answer 9 months later is kind of bad, I think.
Obviously not a topic on the agenda, so I don't want to talk about it too much. Just one additional comment that I thought the commission would be interested in. We have, over the last number of months, done a good job of keeping in touch with those that applied. So they're aware of the process. That doesn't mean that we have a good answer. We don't have a conclusion, but they are aware that this is an abnormal year, and we have communicated to them about the extra steps that have been taken. And you're absolutely right, Commissioner. It is, whether it's a yes or a no, is better than being in limbo. So we are moving towards an answer.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further staff comments? Okay, any commissioner comments?
Yeah, just have one comment. So Memorial Day is coming up in May, and I'm going to imagine that the city's going to have the Memorial Day event at the pier. Last year, I attended both this city's and the city of Oxnard's event, and while I was at Oxnard's event, I was talking with my fellow veterans, and they were saying they're happy to be at Oxnard's event. I said, "Oh, well, did you know Port Hueneme had one?" They said they had no clue. And I asked, "Oh, well, how did you find about Oxnard's?" They went to the VA clinic in Ventura, and there were actually flyers that Oxnard had posted inside the VA clinic in Ventura. So I was just throwing it out there that maybe, hopefully, we might have the opportunity to do the same thing, to make sure that people are aware that we have our own separate events as well as the city. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, with that, the next, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. The next regular meeting of the Citizen Advisory Commission is scheduled for Monday, April 13th at 4 p.m. here at the City Hall. The meeting is now adjourned. The time is 5:02. Thank you, everyone.